Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's great to be back live on the podcast with all of you. I see a bunch of you have already joined us on YouTube or on Facebook. I'm so far only seeing questions submitted through my YouTube channel. So if you are watching live, go over to YouTube and type in Suzanne Giesemann, and you should be able to go to my channel and type in questions. I want to invite in my newest member of our team, Christy Majors, who's going to be moderating today. Hey, Christy, welcome.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you for asking me to do this with you. I'm so excited.
I know, it's just great to feel your energy. And look, everybody, we got this blue thing going, and when we didn't coordinate this, but Christy, tell everybody what you told me a minute ago about pulling a card.
I pulled a card in my meditation this morning, and it was the Archangel Michael card, which if you aren't familiar with Michael, he's usually represented by this blue color. And the card told me to wrap a cloak around me for guidance and protection from Michael.
And without even knowing that, I just tuned in and said, what should I wear for this podcast? And was told, get out your blue blouse. So that just tells me that Christy and I are connected. And I just want to tune in. Let's all just take a breath for a second and realize that you may be watching or listening to the podcast later, feeling like a separate person, but we're all totally connected. And hopefully you were drawn here because you're going to hear something helpful today. Just send gratitude out and acknowledge our connection at the deepest level. All right. I tuned in as Christy and I were getting ready, and my guides twitched my lip and they said, we've got this. So I'm going to be answering questions that Christy throws at me from all of you, but I'm going to turn to my guides to get the highest and greatest answers for those. Again, this is live as we're recording it. I have no idea what any of the questions are, but for those of you who wonder, they're going to be questions about our interconnectedness, who we are as souls, the Awaken Way teachings, the afterlife, spirituality, mediumship, anything in that field that's of interest to you. Go ahead and type your question in on the YouTube channel comments. So, Christy, you have a list of questions that have been submitted over time by followers of the Awaken Way community. We can start with one or two of those, and then you'll just scan the comments and choose what you're guided to. I do want to acknowledge that so many of you who attend these regular podcasts were with me on our Mediterranean cruise. Ty and I are just back from that and still recovering from all that high energy and all that love. The pendulum swings back from being high for 10 days straight. And so I think we're finally getting back in balance, but it was an amazing experience. And Christy, I hope you'll be able to join us on the Caribbean cruise next March.
I hope so, Suzanne. I know it was an incredible experience, and to have that many people gathered with the intention of connecting, and it's such a loving community. I know it was very special.
It was. Everybody on the cruise ship that wasn't part of our group, the crew and several people in the hallway would say, what is this group? Everybody's so happy, so loving, so connected. And I hope all of you just feel that anytime we gather, if you can't join us in person for events like this. So go ahead, Christy. What's the first question?
The first question I have here is asking about our relationships. If we have a troubled relationship with someone here on Earth, when they pass, will they still want to connect with us?
Oh, my. Did you see that little lip twitch? I don't know if you caught that. The guides say more than ever, but it's not so much of a human sense of need and urgency as this awareness, once we're no longer in a body, that we've always been these souls who came here to love each other. And when you no longer have the body and that filter that filters out our awareness that we're souls, you just feel this innate desire to connect and let your loved ones know it's all okay, and that they see all of our interactions from a higher perspective. I encourage everybody to go through the life review that the soul does after passing from the body, to do it now and think about how your relationships now could change if you realized we are souls living stories here and now. So even if you had a troubled relationship, the troubles take on a different perspective once we're across the veil. And as I do readings with people and connect them with their loved ones. The top things that those souls want to talk about are asking for forgiveness, giving apologies, and giving gratitude, expressing their thanks. I do want to comment that Christy is such a perfect member of our team now because she really understands all these things. She has her daughter Tess across the veil, and you enjoy a wonderful connection with Tess, right?
I do. And I was very fortunate that it happened rather quickly after she passed. And it is one of the things that has made this experience that I have gone through bearable, because she is still right here with me and still very connected and still loving me, and our relationship continues to grow.
I love that. You commented to me yesterday that this picture behind me is meaningful to you.
The first time I saw it, I thought that reminds me so much of Tess. And then a mutual friend of ours said the same thing about Tess is looking down on Suzanne every single time she's on.
Yeah, let me zoom in here so all of you can see it. I got this at Janet Nohavic's church, The Journey Within. I saw it and I said, I have to have that because our Susan, Ty's daughter Susan, my stepdaughter Susan, sends us butterflies as signs that she's around. And I saw this angel just blowing a butterfly towards us here in this reality. And she even reminds me a bit of Susan, certainly in the sweetness. So it's an appropriate picture to have back there. All right, how about a live question, Christy, from people who
Okay.
are tuned in now?
Sure. We have a question from Susie. It says, do one's spirit guides communicate with another person's guides?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Just like our loved ones who have passed communicate. Christy, I have no doubt that Susan and Tess are just, coordinating things for us across the veil. But when you understand that our guides connect to other guides, we can use that to our advantage. We can say, okay, my guide, I'm really wishing the best for this person over there, but they don't sense the love that I'm sending to them. So I'm asking you to talk to their spirit guide and put into their awareness how much they're loved and how much I'm sending love to them. Because we are inspired at all times by our guides. And many times we feel that our thoughts are only our own when actually they're put there by our guides and our loved ones who have passed. So if we take advantage of that and ask our guides to inspire someone else's guides to put thoughts in their head, then they're much more likely to sense what we're trying to get through to them. The caveat that the guides want to make sure I mention is we only use this for someone's greatest and higher good. If there's any sense of manipulation, like I really want to get this person to buy me a new car or hire me for that job, that if it's only self-serving, the guides won't cooperate with us for that purpose. But if it's for our greatest good and that new job will lead to helping yourself and many others, then that might just do the trick. So do work with your guides as often as you can and realize that they are working with other people's spirit teams as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, cool.
Here's another question from Kelly. She's asked, why doesn't praying for someone to be healed always work? They suffer and die anyway.
I learned this lesson firsthand in a really profound way from my dear friend Brenda Baker Bowman, who had a healing with a wonderful energy healer a month before she passed from cancer. Everybody thought initially she'd been healed of the cancer because her chemo fog cleared. She was able to focus. She was able to meditate for the first time in months. And then she passed anyway. And people thought, oh, well, the healing didn't really work. And she came through to me within hours of passing with a very clear message that it was her. And the awareness that she was healed spiritually and emotionally. All of the remaining denseness in her energy field from the self-loathing that she had experienced throughout her life was removed in that healing. So much so that when she crossed the veil, she was immediately awake, aware, and communicating with me and with other friends here who were able to sense her. So the challenge is that we humans see death as a failure of the body and somehow a failure of not taking the right steps, when it's actually a celebration across the veil as they welcome souls back and they say, how much higher is your consciousness than when you went into a body? That's the test of how well we do here. How much have we learned that we're souls and we connected with each other? So Brenda got that lesson loud and clear. She had learned to love herself first and foremost before she passed, and was so loving to everyone else. So healing takes place in many ways, and the body is designed to break down after a certain many decades in what we call a normal lifespan, because there's so much that we can learn in a lifetime. And hopefully, by the time we get to our older years, we've really learned what's most important, and that's connecting with each other. Now, some people like Tess's daughter and my daughter Susan, they left early. Why? Well, why is not the right question to ask. The right question is, how did they live their lives, and what kind of legacy did they leave, and how can we honor them by bringing more love into this world as a result of them having given their love to us. So the growth is ongoing, and death is simply a transition to another chapter in our eternal lives as souls, and more opportunities to continue growing even across the veil. That's a long answer, Christy.
It was a great answer, Suzanne. And I have found in all the many interviews I've listened to that no soul is unhappy about going home.
That's absolutely correct. And they may be surprised at first if there's a sudden or unexpected at the human level passing, because the soul generally knows what's happening. Oh, the guides say, you may say, does know what's about to happen. But again, always welcomed with love. Christy, before you ask another question, I want to just let everybody know what you're doing for our team. Now that I'm no longer doing the podcast weekly, Christy is going through years of archives of my monthly connection webinar and selecting teaching that's really great for all of you and putting it into smaller videos and putting them on my YouTube channel. So she's learned how to make these great videos and has just started cranking them out. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so and click the bell for notify, because you'll find out every time Christy puts up a new video. And I'm just thrilled. She's an artist and is using her creativity to make the videos look great, but also using her heart to select just the ones that will help you.
It's been really fun, and it's what a joy to get to listen to you give me lessons for part of my job.
I hope you don't get tired of it.
Oh, I don't think so. This question kind of has to do with what you just talked about. Do we plan how we will die before we incarnate, or do we just plan exit points and our free will choices determine how we die?
Good question. Let me make sure I go to the guides for this one. They say that you can trust the concept of exit points, but as you look at the normal human story and how it unfolds, exit points, if they're at different times in your life, would provide different methods of passing. So there may be some people that come into life and know that they're going to inherit a gene that leads to a certain illness or physical challenge. And so that's pretty well known throughout the life. But there are others who come and they know that their life is going to be short and that it's going to be a sudden passing, that it's not going to be from physical illness. And so there may be, for example, Susan, our Susan, was struck and killed by lightning. And yet the year before she passed, she was in a rollover car accident and wasn't even harmed by that. I feel that that may have been, yeah, you can trust this, that it was close to an exit point, but it wasn't quite time. So she went through that accident, and then when the timing was just right, then she crossed the veil. Some of you may know that our Susan was 6 months pregnant when she passed. And so for us, that was an additional tragedy. And yet, as I have shared Susan's story and how her little son, Liam Tyler, named after Ty, came through in the initial reading we had with the medium, that proved to be the biggest piece of evidence that changed our lives. So that little baby was part of the story and part of the awakening that's led us to help literally millions of people understand that we are souls. So she had to wait until that point in her life. So you can see how what was a terrible tragedy for our family, that our daughter was pregnant when she passed, was actually part of so much more for so many other people. So this is the paradox of living these human stories, yet also realizing that beneath the stories, there's really only one story. We're all connected. Christy, I was thinking about that earlier today. You know, if I don't see through your story and you don't see through mine, then we just see each other as separate. But if I see through the story and I don't focus on that here's Tess, here's Christy with her daughter Tess, and she went through just a horrendous tragedy with Tess's passing, and I have this story, and it's truly tragic, which it is at this level. But when we see beyond the stories, suddenly, when there's no separation between us, and the stories are the separation, then there's total connection. And what do we call that when there's no separation? Well, then it's just love. Love is all that's left. And that's what our loved ones experience across the veil. They see through the stories. So if we can do that while we're here, what a difference that makes. We recognize the stories and we also love each other in spite of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Cheryl. She says, what are the ethics of attempting to communicate with the spirit of one who is still in human form?
Well, good question. It's kind of like it goes back to that question about asking my guides to tell somebody else's guide to get them to do something in our best interest. That would be unethical if it's only self-serving. What is your motive is the question the guides always invite us to ask. Why are you trying to tune into the soul of someone here? Is it to get through to them a message that they're just not hearing that will help them on their journey? Is it to let them know how much you love them and they're just not hearing you? Then there's no problem communicating with their soul or tapping into someone's soul. Once we open up to the awareness that we're souls and we communicate that way, you can know things about other people. This is what's really astounding, Christy. When I do a session for someone, and I tune into their guides and to their energy field, I can know things that they wouldn't tell a therapist until they've sat for hours together. But you're in their innermost thoughts, you know their personality, they might hide from other people, but they give you permission to do that. So to tune into someone without their permission, just out of curiosity, that's not ethical. And so our heart knows when it's right to tune in. If it's going to serve their best interests and help bring more love and healing and comfort, then tap in. But it is good to ask permission to do so.
I know personally, the way that works for me is I practice Reiki, and people will ask me to practice Reiki for someone else, for a loved one who may be experiencing some sort of physical ailment. And I don't ever practice energy work on someone without their permission. And so sometimes I will tap into their higher self and have a discussion about whether or not they want to receive Reiki. And then I will work on them. And generally, most of the time I get a yes, but occasionally I do get a no, and I honor that. And I just perform Reiki on the person who's asking me to help.
I remember you did that recently for someone that we both know, and you tried to ask them real time in human form, can I do Reiki for you? But you weren't able to connect, and you knew it was time sensitive. So you asked her higher self, you got the go ahead, and you sent the healing, and it was received. I got the goosebumps. You all feel that? It was beautiful. And the perfect example of your motive was to heal and to be helpful. So great question. Thank you.
There's a question, an interesting question from Becky that says, can the guides explain what channelers are now calling the flash that will be happening? Have you heard of this,
No,
Suzanne?
I have not heard of it. Okay, well, as I asked the guides about that, they say that it is actually a ramped up energy that will be experienced for some groups en masse, but also for individuals as they are able to handle the higher energy. They're showing me an opening up of the crown chakra and being imbued with higher energy. And oh wow. Huh. They say, like, we use the word a flash of lightning, which of course is how Susan passed, and Wolf from my story, Wolf's Message, which certainly led to transformation in this world, but it's more of a sudden awareness of who we are, and that it may be unsettling to some people, but when you know what it's all about, you would welcome it and ease into that higher consciousness by just flowing with it.
Oh, I've got tingles all over my head.
I picked up on that. Okay.
So let's see here. Let's go to one of these questions over here. Can you please explain in practical terms what turn up your light means?
Oh, yeah. So light is a metaphor, but the guides say it's also quite accurate for the life force that flows through us, animates us, literally breathes your body. When your light is dim, you don't feel as vibrant as normal. When I attended our Susan's funeral, I noticed such a difference in her, and I didn't know how to put it in words, but what was missing from her body was her inner light. So we all have this light while we're in bodies, and it's who we really are. To turn up your light means to embody more of this life force that's breathing you by acknowledging, I am a soul. I am the light of consciousness. I'm here to shine my light brightly. So somebody who is sad or depressed goes inward. You can see it in the posture. But somebody who's filled with vibrancy and spirit and life naturally opens up. And I ask people in gatherings, show me joy. And they go like this. That's shining your light more brightly. And there may be times when you just can't find it within you to shine more brightly because you're grieving or going through a challenge. Gratitude will help you immediately turn up your light at least a bit more so as to enjoy that healing energy. And then the more you can send that out to others, knowing that this light actually connects us all already, but you do it consciously, that's when we really make a difference in our world.
I had an interesting experience at the Helping Parents Heal conference recently in one of the gallery readings where I was volunteering, and I was on the front row because I was the timekeeper. And they were walking down the aisle and I didn't want to turn around and look at everyone. So I just made a conscious decision to sit there and to shine my light out to the whole room, send love to everyone. And as soon as I started doing that, the medium, I was the next person, and he said, when we are drawn to someone, we can see their light. And I thought, wow, what a validation in real time about me shining my light.
Awesome story. What a perfect example. Wow. Yeah, if people could see each other's auras, they wouldn't even ask this question. And there are energy workers who can see the colors that change constantly depending on how we're feeling and what emotions are going through us. So visualize yourself and know that as you go to the heart, feel feelings of gratitude and radiate that by just the intention to shine brighter. Your aura changes. And even if people can't see it, they feel it, they're affected by it, and they feel uplifted. So people often ask, what's my purpose? Well, you're here to shine your light. So you shine brighter, radiate higher consciousness by becoming aware of our innate connection at the soul level, at the level of being consciousness in a body, and intentionally sending your love, your energy, your gratitude out to the world. This sounds like Pollyanna stuff, doesn't it, Christy? But you just showed that it really works.
It really works. And I have found over and over that gratitude truly is the gateway to connection.
Yeah. Yep. We got started here and I said, I'm off balance. I got to get back. I got to get back in balance because I was running around trying to do too many things this morning, as my husband Ty can attest. And what did I do? I just said, we're just going straight to gratitude. And it's just, in my case, it was gratitude for this community that I knew was tuning in already. We could see your comments. Gratitude that my spirit team would handle the whole show for us. So I hope everybody will come to know that you have a support team that's always here to help you. Just take a deep breath to calm down. If you read my book, The Awakened Way, I talk about specific breathing practices like the vagus nerve breath to instantly get you centered and go to a place of gratitude, and you're back in balance just like that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The next question is from Catherine. It says, if we pray to God, Jesus, the angels, or our disembodied family members separately or directly, is that okay? Should we only direct to God or only as a collective?
Oh, well, my guides always ask us to do away with the word should. And it goes back to, they're shouting at me, motive. What is your goal in praying? To bring more love and peace into your life and that of others. When you pray to your loved ones across the veil, you are praying to an aspect of what we call God, Spirit, the light. When you pray to Jesus, you're praying to a consciousness, a being of light who truly knew that he is a direct emanation of God, of spirit. But looking at your loved ones around you, they too are emanations of spirit. So praying is acknowledging I'm not here alone, that help is available, that I can go beyond my individual story and receive higher energy. So the guides say it doesn't really matter who you go to, it's what you hope to gain from that in the sense of peace and love and balance in your life. So go to the highest source, but also your loved ones in spirit will help you simply by giving you their love.
Very nice.
And my gratitude to my spirit team for that one.
We have a question from Donna. She asked, how do you get past a person's negative energy when you live in the same house with them?
All right. First thing I recommend is upgrading your language. I've learned to no longer use the term negative energy because right away that pushes that person away, makes them feel separate from you instead of being in flow with them. So just like a battery has a positive end and a negative end, we need both to get that flow. But what if we call that energy not so positive energy? I mean, just that little difference. If I say, well, I don't like that negative energy, I'm going to resist it. But if I say, well, that's not so positive energy, now I'm curious about it, I'm interested, and I'm less separate from it. And then I can acknowledge I just don't resonate with that energy. I would prefer a different energy here. And right away, you've shifted the way you are flowing with that energy. Now you can actually do what Christy was talking about later, shift your energy and radiate gratitude for this person in your life, no matter how dissonant, and radiate love to them. And now make a conscious choice from a place of love and connection to stay in that energy, to say something helpful, not trying to change them because you're only here to change yourself, which you have just done by shifting your language, or to go for a walk, get out in nature, and say something loving when you come back. Always comes down to our energy and the choices we make moment by moment.
Perfect. We only have control of ourselves, right?
Amen. Ty, I'm sorry for any time I didn't get that. I know you
I think we all have people we can apologize to in that regard.
You know, that's a prayer that I say frequently when I catch myself doing things that I could have done better or more lovingly. And I literally pray, unfortunately, almost daily because I find things to change in myself. Please forgive me for ever thinking I was anything less than love. Because if we all remembered that, and that's who we are beyond the story, love, we wouldn't do such silly human things. But we're here to do those things and learn from them. So if we can stop beating ourselves up about it, then we can just continue growing with peace.
That's beautiful. I'll have to incorporate that, Suzanne. I love that. Here's a question. Does spirit communicate with us through song? Sometimes songs pop into my head that pertain to a question I have at the moment.
There's no doubt about it. And as you asked that question, my guide said it's one of our favorite ways. It's very easy because your guides are part of your conscious energy field. So they are aware of what's around you. Even if you're not consciously listening to a song, all they have to do is snag your attention, and suddenly you hear the lyrics that you might not have heard otherwise. So when you get to know that this is one of the ways your team in spirit, both your guides and your loved ones who have passed, can use to get your attention, you'll send gratitude and really rejoice when you suddenly notice how appropriate lyrics are, or, oh my gosh, that's the song that I used to enjoy with my loved one, and it just happens to be playing and I noticed it. I can't tell you how many times, Christy, I'm posting the morning message, the Daily Way message. Let me put up a note about the app there. We have a free app where anybody can get these messages daily on your phone. I'm posting a message, and as I type the words into the app and the website and my Facebook page, a song will come on with the exact lyrics, and Ty can tell you, I'll say, oh my God, look, that's exactly what I'm typing right now. And the guides say it's no coincidence. So it's another way of showing us what principle number 2 of the Awaken Way is saying. You are part of one big web connecting all that is. And music, being energy and expression itself, is such a beautiful way for spirit to use to connect us all. Christy, I'm not able to see the comments. I hope people are enjoying this and putting.
They are. We have great comments. Everyone is so sending their loves, saying good morning. Someone's asking, where's Lynette?
Oh gosh, Lynette has retired, everybody. Oh no, it's time for her to get away from a computer. And she will from time to time be a guest moderator in the podcast. She will join us at the beginning of my monthly connection webinars as her time and her travels allow, because we all love her joy and her laughter as she does the pregame show. Next one is coming up Tuesday night. You can get the link on my website. But she got a little burned out doing the weekly podcast, and that's why we now have Christy here. But Lynette will remain a soul sister forever, and we'll get her in everybody's spotlight from time to time. And yeah, sorely missed.
You got to hear Lynette's laugh. Lynette has the best laugh.
Oh my gosh, she was on the cruise, and she was in. They wanted her in the back collecting. Checking name tags as people came into the theater, and I said to the producer, no, we need Lynette in the front row when we start. And she looked at me and said, why? And I said, well, it's her laugh. Everybody needs to hear her contagious laugh from the front of the theater, and it's spontaneous, and who would want to dampen that?
That's right. Okay, let's have another question here from the comments. We have one from Tin. It says, I love hearing these stories, but I still have a fear of death. How can I overcome that?
Wow. Okay. I definitely have to ask the guides that. Nothing comes to mind immediately. Oh, they say that this is your greatest opportunity because fear is what keeps us prisoner to the story. They really want us to focus on that story. What does that mean if your life here is a story? It doesn't mean it's not real, but it's how we express ourselves as soul, with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and lots of adventures along the way. When you realize that it's just one story in the eternal life of the soul, then you know you can look forward to more stories, but continue enjoying this story even after you pass. That's what mediumship proves, that we can. I still have to do a reading for you, Christy. I got to make a note about that. She's working on the team, and I haven't done a reading for her yet. I'm making a note. But back to the question about no longer fearing death. So get to know that death really is not the end, and how beautiful the afterlife is. So attending programs like this, Reading the accounts of people who have had near-death experiences is incredibly healing. You see the commonality in these stories. You also may want to get to the other side more quickly, but your soul will keep you here because it actually helps you enjoy this life more when you realize why you're here, for the love, for the growth. So when you can see this fear of death as an opportunity to say, wow, if I simply acknowledge I'm a soul and I surrender my total identification with the story and realize I'm both a story and a soul, that's freedom. So experiencing this fear will allow you to feel the joy when you no longer fear it, while still, when you no longer fear death while still in a body. The contrast between the way you used to think and the way you think now, once you let go of the fear, will bring you so much joy. You'll realize that was actually part of the journey. Lynette, who we just talked about, is the perfect example of this. She walked on crutches when I met her permanently. She was so afraid of dying that she would not have the double knee replacement surgery that she needed. She was afraid she was going to die and go straight to hell based on the belief system instilled in her by her childhood religion. She didn't fly anywhere for 30 years because she was terrified of dying. Through mediumship, by having readings with mediums, through my Awaken Way teaching, and I'm just astounded how much this teaching and my work changed her life. She was one of my number one stalkers, she says, with Brenda for years. She followed me around the country to all of my presentations and really soaked up this teaching. She came to the point where she absolutely knew at the soul level that filtered through to her human awareness, she is both the human story and a soul. She embraced it so fully. She had both knees operated on. She sent me a video of sending her crutches flying in the air into a dumpster.
That's
she
great.
Now travels all over the world. She just flew back from our Mediterranean cruise, and that's why she's retired. She's just all this freedom, darn it. She is not afraid of anything. So use Lynette as a model of someone who went from utter terror to total freedom. And if you see one other person do something you want to do, that is possible for you, because beneath the story, we are limitless souls who create with our consciousness. So it's your belief system, your BS, that's holding you prisoner. See it from the soul's perspective by stepping back and saying, if I'm not only the story, who am I? Go do my sip of the divine meditation, 3 minutes every day, and set the goal to know yourself beyond the story. That's the first step. That was a long answer, but a super important question. Glad you asked that one.
And please go check out Suzanne's Sip of the Divine. It's 3 minutes. It can make all the difference.
You find it for sure on YouTube with the title No More Meditation Excuses. Type that in the YouTube. And I hope we offer it. It's on the app, the free app, the Awaken Way app, and I believe on the gifts page of my website, SuzanneGiesemann.com/gifts.
Okay. Here's another question. When a person suffers with a drug addiction here on Earth and their personality changes due to the drug usage, does this person resort back to their original personality when they cross to the other side?
Great question. The guides say you are creating an energy field that consists of patterns of energy and information. So what you take immediately across the veil is the energy pattern you've created. So that is going to be the immediate personality you take with you. However, you're now tapping into and aware of the higher self, which contains so much more than your current story. And that will be imbuing you with, I am so much more than this story. The life review will remind you of the not so good times and the good times, which you will then be able to choose to continue living, experiencing, and upgrading across the veil. So not to worry, that love that is your true nature is always accessible to you, and we can grab it right here and now and change our patterns like Brenda did, before she passed.
Wonderful. Here's a question from Allison. She says, was there ever a time that you felt like giving up trying to communicate with spirit?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Yes. Yes. I wanted to say no, but my guides put into my mind 2 experiences. And I believe it's a rite of passage for almost all mediums. I'll have to ask my mentor, Mavis Patilla, across the veil in meditation. I'll ask her, but is it a rite of passage? Do we all go through this? But the 2 very brief experiences were when I did readings from the heart with the highest motive, and my clients accepted the reading well, and then came back and got rather nasty with me. I don't know the cause, but they sent a lot of less than positive energy my way, made claims about my work that were not true to my awareness. And I sat with that. I remember saying, I just can't do this work. I'm not going to do it anymore. I can't put up with this kind of energy. Luckily, we have networks of helpers. And I actually went to Mavis and sent her this one video. I said, look, this is the reading I did. This is what the woman is saying. And she taught me through it. And I reached out to both of those clients with love from my heart, not defensiveness that comes from the ego. And in both cases, these women just turned completely around, and I realized the statement is true. Hurt people hurt people. They were in deep grief, and something in both of those readings triggered some unresolved pain in them, and they lashed out at me. And the readings were actually quite transformative for them in the long run. I can tell you I had another reading where I learned a very deep lesson about the importance of really sensing the personality and presence of a spirit before reporting things. And each time I've learned, it helps me grow, but it's not without a lot of discomfort. So just the pain comes with the doing, but boy, have I grown as a result of it. And that when you're truly called to do this work, you can't not do it. So small incidents that lead to further growth, we work with them, we flow with them, and actually, like anything in life, come out stronger as a result. So I hope that helps any of you who are doing this work already, but I know it applies to anything in life, right? You're ready to just say, well, as my original mentor, Janet No Havoc, would say, you want to say, screw it. that was the way she talked, you know? And we may say that for a while because that's part of the story, but the soul knows, okay, you'll get past this and you'll come out stronger.
That's why it's called growing pains, right?
Oh, amen. May my lessons be as painless as possible. That's my other most popular prayer. Yeah.
I've adapted that one.
Oh,
okay. Let's have this question from Anna. She says, why am I often brought to tears when I am in meditation?
Ooh, the surge of love I feel with that one almost knocks me off my seat. I get this question a lot, Christy, in my in-person workshops. People come up to me and they say, you did that guided meditation where you channel Sanaya. Why are tears going down my face? That's the soul leaking out, everybody. That's love. That's the soul saying, we are so happy that you are now taking on this higher energy. Now we can work with you even more closely. When you sit in meditation, you expand from the limited consciousness of being only human stuck in the story. Just to sit in meditation acknowledges there's something more. I'm part of a greater reality. And your consciousness expands. You realize you're far less limited than you thought. And you are literally embodying more of the soul, the higher self beyond the physical self. As you do that, it's felt as an energy. That energy is love. And doesn't love sometimes bring us to tears? You may not feel the fullness of that, but if you really tune into it, next time that happens, you'll say, oh yeah, that's love. And it's really who you are. It's your true nature that we all have the ability to experience personally and viscerally when we just sit quietly for a few minutes and set the story aside. Now, Christy, my guides they just said to me, talk about that for a minute, setting the story aside. So I just came back from 10 days in the Mediterranean with this beautiful Awakened White community, all this love and all this activity and foreign travel and buying stuff and all this human stuff. And I sat in my chair here and the guide said, and now it is time to get back in balance. Set the story aside. You're identifying too much with the story. And I thought about that, and they're absolutely right. Even if you sit in meditation every day, you can still be taking the story with you. Here I am, state your name, sitting in a chair, hoping to improve my life here. My life is part of my story. So how do you set the story aside? Acknowledge, I am more than the story of state your name. And I am willing to momentarily not identify as only that story. I go like this as I say that, because in the surrender stage of my 7-step Bless Me method of connecting with higher consciousness, BLES, the 4th stage is surrender. What you're surrendering is identifying as only state your name, the story of you in a body. And then the 5th stage, the 2nd S is shift. Shift your identity to the soul, but you could even go higher and shift to just being. So after the cruise this week, I sat in my chair across the room here and I said, who am I without my story? And some people are really afraid to go there, Christy, because it is their soul identity, SOLE. You know, if I don't have a story, then who's going to love me? If I don't have a story, what am I? Nothing. Let me tell you, that no-thingness is utter peace. That state of being no thing is the state in which we're totally connected to everyone else beyond the story. And when I sat in that state, which I'd forgotten to consciously connect as, oh my gosh, there was all the peace. And that's one of the main objectives of doing the sip of the divine, where SIP stands for sit in peace. The more we can surrender the identity as this is who I am, then the fear of death goes away, because you're allowing the story to die daily, regularly, moment by moment. And the more you do that and access that peace, that becomes your true identity. That's the goal of the Awakened Way, to bring that peace with you constantly, to bring that awareness of simply I am. And everything else is story that brings us growth and connection. And yet beyond the story, we come to know, whew, all is well, right?
Yeah, I know from personal experience after Tess was killed that I only wanted to get away from my story. I didn't want anything to do with my story. And I found relief from that in meditation. And I developed a very wonderful meditation practice during that time, because that was a space for me where I could find relief and peace.
And if you'll permit me, I will let everybody know that Christy's beautiful daughter, Tess, was murdered. And it was a horrendous story that captured the news for a long time. So for her to have been able to find peace throughout that ongoing ordeal and the trial is a true testament to your soul's ability to get through to you here. And the fact that you're helping others, oof, goosebumps now. There's no accident that you're on this team, helping us now and show what's possible is beautiful.
Absolutely.
And look at the connection you've developed with Tess, who is smiling and beautiful and telling you she's still with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
Okay. Let's have I think I'm going to go over here to this question, because I found this interesting. It snagged me. Do we have to give angels and guides permission to help us, and how often?
Okay, and they say again, we don't have to do anything. It behooves you to do so. They just use that word, so I know it's coming from them. How often? One time. And you just open your heart to your guides and your loved ones across the veil and say, I now acknowledge I am part of a team. I don't ever want to go through another moment of this life thinking I have to do it all alone. Please be here for me, help me in any way possible. That's the overarching intention. You don't have to do it with those exact words or in that way. Just do it from the heart in words that show a clear intention to be guided, your willingness to be part of a team. They will, however, help you even if you have never done that. And you've been helped your whole life. If you look back and see moments when you were inspired to do something, you acted on it, and something wonderful and beautiful happened, trust me, you were being helped at that time. They step in and guide us and keep us on track to the best of their ability until you ask. And then, woo, look out, buckle your seatbelt, because that's when the flow and the miracles really happen. Right, Christy?
That's right. That is right. Okay. We have a question here. How does a soul decide if they wish to reincarnate or stay as an angel or guide?
To reincarnate, the guides say, for most humans happens before you would ascend to the higher levels as a guide or an angel. And you go round and round and round until you fully and completely recognize you are a soul playing a role. When there is no longer growth to be had in this regard, you will then decide it is time to guide others to this awareness.
Wow, that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
This question here, it has to do with a question that I actually have. And
Could I interrupt you a second,
yeah,
Christy?
sure.
You're giving me part B of that.
Yes.
They're acknowledging that there are so many humans who say, I am never coming back here. Why would I do this again? And that is an indication that you still have some things to learn. When you recognize that your challenges are here for a purpose, serve a purpose, that our growth does come through pain, and we accept it willingly, but are willing to make choices to grow and not repeat those mistakes, that's when you really learn your lessons, and you realize that coming back is not a punishment, and that it's an adventure in consciousness that the soul willingly takes on in order to bring more growth to the entire body of humanity. So we take on these lives willingly, and it's not a punishment. That's just the huge key that everybody across the veil wanted us to know. Okay.
And the message I always get is that this is just a blink. So when we look at it from a divine perspective, this is really just a blink, and doesn't feel like it when we're here sometimes, but I trust in that.
Absolutely doesn't feel like it. But the way to understand that, the guides say, is think of your dreams. An entire story can play out in one dream, and yet you wake up and it was like that. And that is absolutely what these lifetimes are like to the soul. And to your loved ones who have passed, the separation between you is that short as well, especially because they're still so aware of you. If I could, Christy, before you go to the next question, almost every reading I do, I would say, no, they say, yeah, every reading I do, the loved ones across the veil show me a current event going on in my client's life. Why? To show that they really are still part of our lives, see what's going on here and now. Can I share that? Yes. I didn't get permission to share this, but it's anonymous. I just did a reading for a woman yesterday, and the loved one let me know this is current. And I said, they just snagged me with a little plant I have across the room, and they showed me the current event, you were pruning a plant. And at first my client shook her head, and then she said, wait, but this morning, my husband and I gifted a plant to someone. As my husband handed it to her, he had to clean some dead leaves off of it. And I said, there you go. That's it. I got the goosebumps with that one. And that's a current event, which shows that the loved one, even though they passed years ago, saw that happen earlier in the day. So it may be a blink of an eye to them. It may be decades till you see your loved one. And that's really hard for us here. But coming to know that they're still taking part in our life, still see the weddings and the graduations and the children being born, and acknowledge that in readings. I'm sure you've had examples of that, Christy. We realize that we continue to be members of the same soul family.
That's right. And brings me great comfort.
Yeah. And it's not just palliative comfort to make people feel better. It's the evidence. Let's just like that simple story of seeing a loved one with a plant that shows us they really are part of our lives. They're just operating, those in spirit, at a different channel. And a medium has simply learned how to tune into that different frequency. But you can imagine how many TV channels are in your room right now. You don't see them all, but if you had the remote control, you could tune into a particular channel. And that's what all of us can learn to do. That's what I teach people in my classes to do, is change the channel.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because it's true. We can all learn how to do it.
Oh yeah, I'm not a born medium. That's a misconception, that you have to be born with this ability. Guess what? We are born with this ability, but you're not necessarily aware of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Why don't we do one or two more? And
Okay.
yeah.
I'm going to kind of combine a couple of these questions because they're all on the same, have the same idea. How do we know when we're trying to connect with spirit, with our guides, or if we're doing automatic writing, how do we know that we're actually making the connection and it's not just our ego?
Oh my gosh, it's the most common question I get as a teacher of this. What's your intention to connect? How do you do it? From the heart. What do you do when you're receiving this? You notice what is arising in awareness. There's a very different sensation within you when you're making something up, when you're thinking something, versus when something simply arises in awareness in response to your intention. So that's number one. It just arises spontaneously. Number two, you feel it and know it in your heart. This is from your loved one. That knowing is what changes everything. And number three, do this often enough, stick with it long enough in one automatic writing session, and you'll notice unique or creative or unusual things that stand out that you would not have thought of. Now take it a step further and ask for evidence. Include in this message something that I couldn't know that I can ask somebody else about, or give me a sign that will validate this in the coming days. So you're actually working and engaging with sentient beings. It's not just your mind. You're all part of one mind. And this is the bottom line of all of this Awaken Way teaching. We're all connected by this one field of consciousness. You get used to saying, this is my mind and that's your mind, but they're all linked as one mind. So you start to notice what stands out from your normal patterns of sensations, thoughts, and feelings that go through awareness. We're all linked by that awareness. What stands out? Yes, you absolutely can make things up, but it's that knowing in the heart. In response to your heartfelt intention, oh my gosh, that's my loved one.
Yeah.
You had that experience, Christy?
I have, and I've come to trust it. I know that when I am connecting, I feel it in my body, whether it's tingles or something in my stomach, but there is something that goes on in my body that I makes me know that I have a connection. But the biggest hurdle for me has, and I think it is for most people, is trusting what you're getting.
Oh,
We
and
tend to
that
say we're making it up or doubt what we're getting, and that's been my biggest obstacle.
it is the number one obstacle, especially students of mediumship. And the way to overcome that is practice. Keep doing it over and over. One time is not going to change your mind. One time of receiving a message, hearing insights, the most common messages you're going to hear are, I love you so much. I'm still right here and I'm fine. And we're going to think, oh, that's what we want to hear. And I made that up. Well, that's what your loved ones want you to know, right, Christy? So that's what they're going to say. That's why you stay with it longer and you engage them. The 3 E's of Awakened Living. Educate yourself with programs like this. Experience for yourself with the Sip of the Divine and my Bless Me method, and then engage your loved ones through automatic writing or longer sessions in meditation, but do it regularly enough until you realize, oh my gosh, they really are here. I'm not making this up. They're telling me things that I didn't expect. They're going beyond I love you and I'm still right here. It's It comes with practice. And for a medium, it's that trust is just a matter of overcoming that left hemisphere of the brain that says, oh, I can't do this. It's all me. Well, the more you do it and you feel it in your heart and you see the healing effect it has on others and yourself, well, that's what keeps us going.
That's right. There's nothing like it.
Amen. Christy, I think that's a great one to end with, and the awareness that we can all learn to tune in. Please, everybody, visit the gifts page at SuzanneGiesemann.com/gifts. There are meditations there to help you have that personal experience. I really hope you've enjoyed the beautiful energy that all of you brought to this experience. I can feel all the love. I promise you, I will continue to do these monthly, and I'll send out an email about it. So in advance, if you haven't joined my email list, go to SuzanneGiesemann.com, and the pop-up will come up and give you the opportunity to sign up to be notified about podcasts. But meanwhile, Christy's going to keep putting new content out there at least twice a week. With good teaching to help us find more peace and connection in our lives. Christy, thanks so much for your help today. Oh my gosh, you're a natural.
Oh, thank you. This has been so much fun. And I just love being a part of this community. Thank you, Suzanne.
It's a blessing. Okay, everybody. Hope this fueled you up for a great day and a great week. And we'll see you back here next time. We love you all so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.